Please call the roll.
Councilor Kaser is absent, and in her place, filling in for her is Amanda Dyerly, guest counselor.
Here.
Councilor Andersen.
I'm here.
Councilor Nakey.
Here.
Councilor Leung. Absent. Councilor Osick.
Here.
Councilor Hoy.
Here.
Councilor Cook. Here. Councilor Lewis.
Here.
And Mayor Bennett.
Here. Great, thank you. Well, welcome, Amanda. We're glad you're here. We'll look forward to all of your discussions. You just feel free to talk here anytime. We'll look forward to hearing from you.
Pledge of allegiance.
No, just looking at it, just realized. We're going to do an addition to the agenda. We're going to do a flag salute. Apparently it didn't make it on. So. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or deletions?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of additions to the City Council agenda, item 1.4A, presentation to journaling through treatment.
Second.
Second by Cook. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Council comments? Councilor Andersen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. On my own, I've done a completely unscientific study recognizing the first week anniversary of the plastic bag ban at various stores up and down commercial in North Salem and East Salem, and at one store in West Salem, without identifying myself. And mostly I didn't have my bow tie on, so there was no other
giveaways?
Yes. I spoke to both checkers and people in front of me and behind me in the line, and with the exception of one or two people who were a little confused, everyone supported it. So I think it's a good deal, and I hope we move forward with this.
I did some shopping. The only people who seemed to be concerned about it were the checkers, who wanted me to be sure I was going to pay a nickel. That I understood I was paying a nickel. It's because that guy in the bow tie, I think he kept saying. Okay, any others? I had the opportunity on Saturday to participate in the second year of Qingming, the celebration of Chinese Memorial Day at Pioneer Cemetery. We had a great turnout from here in Salem as well as from Portland. It's again a very moving event with a lot of history for this community and really for all of Oregon, and particularly of the Western United States in terms of the history of the Chinese over the past century and a half. It was really quite good. We plan on doing it again next year. I particularly want to compliment Kimberly Fitzgerald, who continues to do just an outstanding job working on this whole variety of historic preservation, archaeological issues, and particularly for this particular event, this really is a lot of work on her and her staff's part. So I'd really recommend it next year, same time next year, if you'd like to participate. Okay, any others? Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. The staff has been preparing for high water levels. The Willamette River's water level is expected to rise due to the continued rainfall and snowmelt to the south. The current forecast is showing our flood stage to hit or just below flood stage by early Wednesday, April 10th. As a precautionary measure, we have closed Wallace Marine Park and Minto Brown Island Park. We're asking for the public's cooperation in staying out of those areas. We have our sandbag locations operating: City of Salem Public Works, West Salem Park and Ride, Lowe's on Turner Road, and Courthouse Fitness on Commercial Street. Our Public Works is at 1410 20th Street Southeast. The West Salem Park and Ride is on Wallace Road. The Santiam River is expected to be just below flood level or action stage, meaning low-lying areas with poor drainage may experience flooding. We are not anticipating any threat or danger to our Guerin Island water treatment plant. We'll continue to keep the public informed through press releases and social media, and hopefully the weather will cooperate and we won't have experience any severe flooding. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. I have a couple of presentations. I wanted to invite up Sunny Saltalamaki. Close. Close. Great. And also Arthur. The City of Salem's Youth Development Section aims to build thriving young community members through civic engagement opportunities and direct adolescent prevention and early intervention efforts. There are many collaborative programs with local nonprofits, including Bridgeway Recovery Services. Sunny's here from Bridgeway. Thanks to a 2017-18 mini grant of $5,000 coupled with a $9,000 grant from Willamette University's Atkinson Graduate School of Management, Bridgeway Recovery Services Adolescent Addiction Treatment Program was able to launch its Journaling Through Treatment Youth Arts Project. The city's mini grant purchased music and video production equipment that the teens could use to work through past struggles, rewrite their life stories beyond the failures and traumas, and inspire others to do the same. In only its second year of programming, 3 teens submitted musical tracks written and produced in the basement studio of the Ike Box Cafe to the Teens Make Music National Competition organized by Recording Academy Music Cares. The contest challenged young people to create an original song and or music video that celebrates life without alcohol or drugs, bringing attention to the real-life consequences of substance misuse. One song won first place and the other won third place. These are the folks from Salem. For this recognition, the teens traveled to Los Angeles to attend the 61st Annual Grammy Awards on Sunday, February 10th, and received a backstage tour during rehearsals. Tonight, we'd like to further recognize these 3 winners of the national competition. A couple of the fellows couldn't be here. Andrew McMains. Andrew, give him a wave. I told Andrew he was going to have to sing, but he said he'd rather just wave. And the others 2 are David Bond and Caleb McDonald. We're sorry the other 2 couldn't be here this evening. I want to just read you real quickly what our certificate of recognition says. In acknowledgement of your tremendous progress overcoming difficult life circumstances assisted by Bridgeway Recovery Services located in Salem, Oregon. Your participation in Bridgeway's Journaling Through Music Arts project led to recognition by the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences and its Music Cares Foundation and the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. And as the 3rd place winner in the 9th Annual Teens Make Music competition, Music Cares encourages young people to create original music celebrating life without alcohol and drugs, while bringing attention to the real-life consequences of substance misuse. The City of Salem congratulates you on your musical success, and more importantly, proudly recognizes the courageous efforts of sharing your personal story and striving to live a healthy, creative, and productive life. Signed, Chuck Bennett, Mayor, City of Salem. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And once again, we want to thank Lori. We've had a long-standing working relationship with as the Youth Development Coordinator in the City of Salem. She championed the grant. On top of the musical stuff we're able to do, we're also able to help youth develop videos and share their stories through video to let people know that sometimes behind that rough exterior is really a hurt kid. And once you address that hurt, they can move through their issues and become not only, good citizens, but national music-winning citizens. So thank you again, Lori. Thank you, City of Salem, and we're just happy to be here.
Great. It's time for public comment, and we will do that. Just remind you, you have 3 minutes. The yellow light comes on at 2 minutes, so you have 1 minute left. At that point, when the light turns red, just please stop talking, or I'll interrupt you. I just hate doing that. It's so rude. So Lynn Takata, you're first to tell us what's up.
Let's see. So my name's Lynn Takata, and I live in Ward 1, and I serve as the chair of Northeast Neighbors, but my comments tonight are individual. So I wanted to thank the mayor and the city councilors for bringing this matter forward, and also Peter Fernandez and the city manager, Steve Powers. I appreciate that. And I have to figure out how to start this. So the Salem Peace Mosaic was created to share that the word Salem means peace. It brought together 600 people to express what peace meant to them. Hundreds of children and youth were involved. Artists and many people at the Salem Art Fair sculpted relief tiles for the mosaic. And it involved a diverse community that's often not included in public art. The Chemawa Indian School, the Oregon State Hospital, youth at Hillcrest, individuals experiencing homelessness. Poet laureate Emerita Pauline Peterson wrote a poem for the city of Salem that flows through the mosaic. And art was inspired by poetry, and poets were inspired by art. The mosaic shares the children's love of nature. The community was engaged in workshops, and we asked them what peace meant to them. Many different ideas were shared. We had lots of different workshops where people from 2 to 95 participated. The YMCA offered their building as a site and sponsored the mosaic. It encouraged youth to think about peace, and what that meant was nature. So these were designs that were created at McKinley. We did workshops at the Chemawa Powwow and engaged about 80 people from very young to older. North Salem High School students played a large role in this, and they created drawings for it. We worked with them over about 3 months, and their designs changed the actual mosaic. It took about 3 months to create that tree. We worked with Parish Middle School, Casting Glass, artists at Willamette Art Center. Lots of wonderful intergenerational moments happened with families, with people who did not know each other previously. We worked, as many of you might know, in the sun for about 6 months, and anyone who just happened by could help with the mosaic. We had about 200 people at our celebration. So the Y is going to be demolished to build a new facility that we support, and now we have a deadline to save the artwork. So the carousel has included the mosaic and designs for their new building. How can the mosaic be moved? That's the #1 question. It's going to need to be cut into pieces, and then we have an engineer helping us to figure out what that means, how big they are, and all of that. So the mosaic engaged students at North. It integrates art from our Native American community. It's an interactive piece. Whoa.
I know it's fast,
And it's the
isn't it?
red light.
So, Lynn, what you're here for tonight is to have this move forward with assistance from the city.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reed Carlson.
Alrighty. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Reed Carlson. I'm the Marketing and Recycling Coordinator for Mid-Valley Garbage and Recycling Association. I've been brought out here to talk about recycling again. I came back after a couple months because we've got some recycling objects on the agenda, so I wanted to make sure that I'm out here. I want to make sure that everybody here understands about what's going on with recycling. I'm constantly doing presentations, so if anybody in the audience has any groups or communities that are confused, frustrated, or just want to know more about recycling, I'm here to do presentations. I brought a little bit of a sample of my presentation here tonight just to talk about and clarify some of the recycling happenings in Marion County. So plastics are some of the most confusing categories in recycling. That's because there's so many different types of containers. Here in Marion County, we only recycle plastic bottles and jugs. People are really starting to understand that in the plastics categories, plastic and jugs are the only items allowed. What is still confusing is what defines a plastic bottle or jug. The way we've been defining that is the opening has to be smaller than the base. So that's the case with bottles and jugs. Jugs typically have handles. I had props last time, didn't bring them this time because they slowed me down. So as for the next couple slides, I'm mainly highlighting some real-world examples in Marion County. So I had the same exact slides last time, but I know there's some new faces here. So in the red are highlighted bad items, not for recycling and mixed recycling, and the green check marks are good. You'll notice cardboard and paper is really the most common properly recycled items, which is great. This slide has a theme of it has a home, it's just not in the mixed recycling cart. So film plastic, that's in the form of the Amazon Prime envelope and the Amazon Prime packaging. These both have homes. A lot of times it's source separated because it gets caught in the processing. And glass, that can be collected at curb, but not in the mixed recycling cart. This next one is how to properly or improperly prepare your recycling at the curb. So we've got a few of these cardboard boxes, but they have styrofoam stuck inside and the plastic windows. Removing the styrofoam and the plastic windows will make these cardboards perfectly recyclable. However, as they are, they'll need to be removed or sometimes completely removed, the whole cardboard. And flattening cardboard is great. Anytime we can make more items fit in those big recycling trucks, the more efficient the routes will be, saving gas and that sort of thing. This next one is just items that never belong. Plastic hangers, food, paper bags, the laminated sheet of paper, that doesn't belong. That's basically just a sheet of paper. And then finally, I brought the same video of what we see at the hopper cam. We're always looking at this camera not only to find contamination, but also to make sure that nothing hazardous gets in our truck. So that's the main source of where we see the entire cart's materials. So if anybody has any questions.
Could you give one more on the bottles and jugs? Large opening you can recycle, or small?
So small.
Smaller than
Okay.
base.
Yeah. So
wanted you to make that real clear.
yes, the small openings compared to the large base, that's a bottle or a jug. Tubs typically have larger openings and a smaller base. Those are not allowed. There's a couple different problems as to why that is, and
Okay.
that's all in the full
Councilor
presentation.
Andersen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following up, Reed, with two issues that are always interesting in our household. Tissue paper. Is that recyclable or not? That's my view.
Fiber and compost is a little bit tricky because oftentimes if you have a ratio that's too high of fiber to natural material, then that creates an issue.
But clearly it should not go in the recycling bin.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Nanke, he's the pro from Dover on this.
That's good.
The next one is little cartons that you get fruit, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries in. By my understanding, those are also not recyclable because the base and the top are the same, or the top might even be bigger.
In terms of plastic?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would consider those to be clamshells.
Yeah.
So they open like a clamshells. Those have never been recyclable.
Okay.
And so any sort of those.
Thank you for educating me and the public.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify on that, if it's one of the cardboard, say the green kind that the strawberries typically come in, or blueberries, so it's cardboard-ish material, that also is not recyclable, is it? Or is it?
From what I understand, those are similar to egg cartons, and those are pretty. They're good because they're success stories, as I like to call them. They're made with typically 100% recycled content, but once it gets to that level, it's held together with mostly glue, and the fibers become too short.
Right.
So.
I want to change. So your answer is that the little green containers are not recyclable, and neither are egg cartons.
Correct.
Right. I think that's a misconception.
Reason.
I think it's really good if you could be really concrete with your answers, because people, they need yes or no. Like, yes, you can put this in the blue bin. No, you cannot.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's, people hear it differently.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, though, about the fines. Have we seen those go down for people putting contaminants in their recycling bin, or are they staying the same? Are they going up? What's happening with the fines?
So I don't have a report of the contamination fees, unfortunately. However, we have heard from Garden Services that the contamination levels have gone down a little bit. I mainly focus on education, so what I see is questions and people really understanding what's going on a lot more now that about a year has passed. So I don't have the exact numbers of those, unfortunately, but I can find someone who can.
Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of a follow-up from, I think, last time you were here. We had a good-sized discussion on shredded paper, pre-shredded paper, and what people are supposed to do with it. Could you, because they don't want it necessarily in a paper bag, shredded paper.
Pre-shredded?
You shredded it at home. Now what do I do with it? It's paper. But they don't want it necessarily in with the normal paper.
So I don't want to speak for Garden Services, but I have been telling people to bring that directly to Garden Services. They have their own shredding service, and they do have a pile of shred that makes sure that all of that shredded paper is only shredded paper, and it does get recycled properly. So
they would prefer it delivered to them rather than
correct.
Try to get it there where it all falls apart before it gets to them and makes a mess on it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you'll be around when we talk, if we do talk about recycling a little bit?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. I don't know. I'm not sure on this first name, last name, Barry. I apologize. I just couldn't read it exactly right, so.
Well, the fault is probably mine. My name is Eleanor Berry, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the resolution to support the preservation of the Salem Peace Mosaic. I come as one of the poets who participated in that project. I don't actually live in a ward of the city. I live in far eastern Marion County, but the city is where I come for many meetings and events, and I worked in the city. So why do I think it's important to save the Peace Mosaic when the old YMCA building is demolished? Not because of the thousands of pieces that compose it, not because of all those pieces of glass and ceramic and stone, And not because of the time it took, not because it took nearly 3 years to design and fabricate and install, but because it's a unique work of public art conceived and created specifically for Salem and by more than 600 members of the Salem community. Because it makes visible through their artistic creations Salemites whose presence is often invisible in this city. Because it's a source of pride for all of us who participated in its creation and for our families and friends. Because it's an emblem of the literal meaning of the word that is this city's name, Salem, that means peace. Because it's a vision of harmony among people and between people and the natural environment. Because it incorporates in a river of peace running its full length, a poem to and about this city, this state capital, written specifically for it by 2010-2014 Oregon Poet Laureate Paul Ann Peterson. Here is that poem. Capital. River-carved city, green with leaf light. In you our civil law is born. Beneath your rotunda that shoulders the sky, a chord calls us to set conflict aside. Salem, we're speaking peace each time we say your name. Salam, shalom. At your sight, our map makers place a star's steady shine.
Great. Thank you very much. Brenda Rojas.
Hi, I'm Brenda Rojas, and I'm a member of the Salem community. I'm a resident here. And I'm a student that participated at North Salem High School in the creation of the Tree of Life that contributes to the side of the Salem-based Mosaic. It really helped me develop life skills, and it was the start of my art career as I am pursuing it right now. And knowing that it could be destroyed and demolished along with the building, that really impacted me in a way that I need this mosaic to be saved. I need this mosaic to keep its representation. We don't have as much representation here for groups that I come from. I am a low-income student of color that lives here and enjoys art, and we deserve, as students, as people of this community, we deserve to have this mosaic in our city. It really helped me a lot. I suffer from mental illness. I have depression and anxiety. I have learned so much with these group of people that I have contributed with in the mosaic. It has helped me a lot in my life, and it impacts me every day, knowing that it's here, knowing that we are a part of this together, knowing that we have united as a people in peace and harmony, as Eleanor was saying. It should be saved. I'm here to support the mosaic 100%, and I hope that you guys know that it's important. And so we are Salem, and we are all peace, and that the mosaic embodies that 100%. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Peter Burgell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Peter Burgell. I live at 1850 Saginaw Street here in Salem. And I would like to just support this resolution also because, as Eleanor Berry so eloquently said, this is a piece of public art, and it's a piece of public art not only because it's owned by the public, but because it was made by the public. So if ever there was a piece of art in this community that was deserving of the name public art, this is it. So it would seem like a real shame to allow this piece of particularly public art to perish. So I urge you to support the resolution that not yet, that Councilor Andersen is bringing before you tonight, and the other councilors that have co-sponsored it. I really want to encourage you to support this resolution. And also, I think there's some other people here who will not be speaking to you tonight, but who do support this, and I'd like to ask them to stand up at this time, if they will. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, Peter. Jim Lewis has a question.
Peter, one question, if I could. I don't know if there's going to be somebody else that could respond to this better, but I've got to ask. The estimate that I see in the report is $250,000 to relocate this. Can you tell me about the fundraising efforts and where they are?
I think that Lynn Takata would be a better person to answer that question, so if it's okay with the council, and let me defer that question to her.
Okay.
So we've been really lucky at having a lot of in-kind donations and services. Right now we're estimating, I know it says $250, but I should be getting written quotes in that I believe will make the cost about $100,000 or less. So the city's been very generous, and the contractors in the community have been very generous at donating or discounting their services. And that's what we anticipate will happen again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Jody Blackman.
Hi, I'm Jody Blackman, and I live in Salem. I am the Director of Enrichment Academy for the Salem Kaser Education Foundation, and I know that you, the council members, got a report from the Youth Development Department, and I wanted to come and speak in support of our work that we do with the City of Salem and that department specifically. SCEF serves students in the Salem Kaser School District with innovative programs that expand on bell time learning and create unique recreational opportunities. One of our main ways that we do it is our Enrichment Academy program that serves children in grades K through 12. EA provides supper, supervision, and safety for students who might otherwise be home alone. Enrichment Academy works. This last year, we've served 7,254 Salem Kaser students. And 90% of our students complete their homework on time, 89% show improvement in attendance, and 90% have better overall academic performance. EA allows students exposure to STEM programs that they might not get during bell time. Classes such as Girls Code, Mouse Squad, Lego Robotics, coding, satellite gaming, gardening, chess, 3D printing, and Rubik's Cube, believe it or not. That's a big thing now, again. We also have classes that focus on arts, recreation, and literature, and homework help, and subject-specific interventions for kids who need extra help. Support that we get from the City of Salem allows us to continue to fund these classes throughout our district. City support is an essential component for us to provide equity among all of our sites. In the past year, we have worked closely with the Youth Development Department on the city's CareCorps summer high school program, providing resources, projects, and staff time, including assistance setting up a 0.5 service elective credit for all the CareCorps members who participate. We recognize the effectiveness in developing young leaders, and we are increasing our support of that program by assigning a staff member to assist in this meaningful summer learning program. Lastly, SCEF is in talks with Youth Development to provide a space in our facility rent-free for the city's 1,000 Soul shoe collection and distribution program for youth in need. Currently operating in the Ike Box, we've been made aware that the program needs a new place to host, and we're going to help with that and work with the city and the Youth Development Department on providing that space. We're excited to work with that program because of the need that it meets throughout our kids in our district. Thank you for this opportunity to come and speak with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ron Sturba.
Ron Sturba, 520th Street Northeast, in Ward 1. Good evening, Mayor and council members, city staff, and neighbors. I want to say one of the things that I really enjoy in life here are the volunteers throughout the neighborhoods. And I have participated in numerous over the last 25 years. But this one on the Mosaic actually touches my wife and I, because we walk downtown 3 days a week. And each time that the wall was being put up, we were asked to put a piece into that wall. And just like the neighbors planting trees in our neighborhoods, you get to watch the tree grow, and you get to feel the excitement and the livability of the part that you participated in. And volunteerism is, to me, part of the gold in one's heart. And at this time, I would have to say, please, somehow make sure that Mosaic is saved, because there's a lot of story and love that goes throughout that Mosaic from one side to the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, that's everyone who has signed up. Anyone else? All righty, thank you. Consent calendar. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the consent calendar with the following poll, item 3.2A by Councilor Andersen.
Second by Osik. Any discussion? Councilor Nanke.
Quick one, Mr. Mayor, on the legislative report. I'd like to register an opposition to the recommendation on House Bill 2509 and 2653 regarding to single-use checkout bags, and then House Bill 2656 relating to forest land that supplies drinking water systems, knowing that over half of that doesn't, well, it belongs to all of us, it's federal forest, and we can only restrict what happens on private forest. And I know that we're losing a lot of roads, and roadway didn't make as much sense to me. I know there's erosion potentials for that, but to take the entirety of the forest and the drinking watershed and say you can't put any more roads anywhere, to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. So I'm not real familiar with where they may or may not have limitations on that road construction, but the way it reads in its title, I'm opposed to it.
Should I go over the consent calendar?
You say what?
Should I go over the consent calendar and list the items?
Yeah, why don't you?
That'd be great. So we have item 3.1A, which are the minutes of the March 29th City Council meeting. We have item 3.3A, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the Salem Kaser School District 24J for use of a portion of Columbia Street Northeast right-of-way adjacent to Highland Elementary School. We have item 3.3B, which are the priority bills for the 2019 legislative session. And that is the consent calendar.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and we'll record Councilor Nanke's. Okay, great. We have a public hearing on the North Gateway Urban Renewal Area.
The City Council will now conduct a public hearing concerning a proposed substantial amendment to the City of Salem's North Gateway Urban Renewal Plan. The hearing will be conducted with staff presentation first, followed by other interested persons. Neighborhood associations are limited to 5 minutes. per association, and individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes. A yellow light will appear at the podium when 1 minute remains, and a red light will appear when your time has expired. Please conclude your testimony when the red light appears.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay, Kristen Rutherford, Urban Development Director, and I just want to introduce Sarah Long, who's going to give a very brief staff presentation. And I wanted to thank Sarah because substantial amendments in urban renewal that's not something that most agencies do very often, and it's a very complicated process and a lengthy process. Sarah's done a great job in shepherding this project through the process, and we look forward to sharing the information with you this evening. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilor, sorry about that. Sarah Long, and I'm with the Urban Development Department. I am a project manager for this amendment. Before I go into anything, we do have a map up. It is not the world's best map. This urban renewal is kind of a large area, but at least it gives you a geographic kind of sense as to where the North Gateway URA is, especially for those in the audience who aren't as familiar with our urban renewal areas. So the purpose really of this public hearing is to allow council kind of the opportunity to determine whether or not they want to move forward with the ordinance that would increase the maximum indebtedness of this urban renewal area. I'll use the word maximum indebtedness several times, so just for those who aren't familiar once again with how the urban renewal areas work, what maximum indebtedness really is, it's the amount of money that urban renewal can collect, and therefore how much that urban renewal can also spend. So we're really just talking about how much money do we have that we can use towards projects in that urban renewal area. So this particular urban renewal, North Gateway, has been around since about 1990. It is our largest at 900 acres in size. And when it was initially established, it had a maximum indebtedness of $75 million. At this point in time, we have about $6 million left of that 75 that we can collect and therefore spend within the urban renewal area. Projects up to this point that have been completed include everything from infrastructure improvements, community development projects such as the Hollywood Station mixed use project. It's adjacent to Center 50 Plus. We've done affordable housing, a lot of development assistance projects as well. We also have a grant program, which some of you might be familiar with. And just in the past 3 years, that grant program has contributed $6.5 million in public funds, and the return has been over $23 million in private funds. And we think it's created about 180 jobs. So the proposal before council tonight would increase our maximum indebtedness by about $25.46 million. So we would have a total indebtedness of $101.46 million. That increased funding would be directed at projects which would continue the work that we're already doing, and it would include continuing funding of the grant program, funding for development infrastructure, so things like water, sewer, things to kind of help get those developments off the ground. We would also be looking at funding towards affordable housing, site redevelopment, bike and ped connections, transportation infrastructure, and continuing some additional streetscape enhancement projects throughout the corridor. Under the proposed increase, we expect that the collections of the taxes would go until about 2028, based on current projections. So just kind of a little how we got to where we are and why we are where we are. This process started a year ago. So it actually started back in April of 2018, and it was spurred by the North Gateway Advisory Board. They were going through their budget process, and we had the conversation that we were starting to run low on funds, and at the same time there's been a lot of demand for different types of development in the area. Everything from the grant program to affordable housing to development needs that just haven't been able to be met, and we're running out of money. And so the board had a conversation with staff and said, is there anything we can do to increase the amount that's available to us? So with that, staff went back. We started looking at the projects that were still in the plan that hadn't been completed. We were talking with other city departments to determine what projects did they have in those areas that was of need. And based on those assumptions, we came back to the Urban Renewal Agency in September of this past year, and the agency gave staff the direction to start down the path of increasing that maximum indebtedness. So that was sort of the kickoff point for staff to start going through the state statute process. So we have our city process, but all urban renewal areas are actually mandated by state statute. So we've kind of been following two paths for the past 7 to 8 months along the way. So what we did after that point is we started sitting down with the different departments and making a list of all the projects that were still kind of outstanding within the area, figuring out how much those would cost for completion. Because one of the things with maximum indebtedness is we can't just put a dollar amount in the plan and say, we need $40 million more. We have to allocate those to individual projects so that there's a level of accountability there. So we're not just saying we want a bunch more tax dollars that aren't going to the taxing districts. There's a plan, there's a guide moving forward. So we started that process and we came up with a list of projects. We took that list back to the advisory board to make sure that we were on point with what they were thinking, and we asked the board to also prioritize those for us. So depending on what funding level we could actually move forward, we knew kind of where we were looking at in terms of the types of projects that we would be able to accomplish. After we had that meeting with our advisory board, we then sat down with several of the taxing districts. So we met with the county, the school district, and the transit district to go over what we were looking at doing. What is increasing the maximum indebtedness? What does that mean to taxing districts? What's the process look like? What does the project list look like? Are we capturing things that other people are seeing in the community that might need to be completed? Through those meetings, we had great meetings, great feedback, and afterwards we came to the conclusion that there was really two paths that we have the option of going down. There's one path, which is a consult and confer, which means we can increase our maximum indebtedness by no more than 20% of the initial, taking into account inflation, or we can go down a path of concurrence, which is more than 20%. And based on what we heard from the taxing districts, and once we really pared down that project list and got some realistic budgets, going down the path of consult and confer and keeping it under that 20% seemed to make the most sense. So after we finished that, the next step was really going to the neighborhood association. So right before the holidays, we presented to them, sharing the process once again, sharing our proposed list of projects, trying to make sure that we were listening to everybody, getting all sorts of feedback, making sure that our list of projects was really kind of taking into account all the different needs that urban renewal could help, for that matter, at least. We had a good meeting with the neighborhood association, and then in December, the North Gateway Advisory Board did recommend moving forward the proposal that's before you this evening. Once that process was done, we really had to kick off our public process. And what that meant is we did outreach to all the taxing districts, so they received a copy of the report and the amendments that are in your packet by certified mail. They received those in February to allow time for comments, for outreach. Up to this point, neither Kristen or myself have heard from anybody. We also have to do an outreach to every citizen in the city of Salem. So we did a combination of outreach. Those who still receive utility bills in the mail, which is about half of the city, received a notice in their utility mailer. Those who don't, we did a direct postcard to. And as part of that, what we did is we designed a website specific for this amendment process. So it provided the amendment itself, it provided the report, it provided all of our meetings that we were having in case folks wanted to come and give us input. It explained urban renewal. Not everybody understands what urban renewal is, so we tried to use the opportunity as kind of an educational tool as well to just see what we're doing. What does it mean? How are we impacting the community? Then sort of the last piece to that is we went to the Planning Commission at the beginning of March. It is a requirement to make sure that the projects being proposed are in compliance with the comprehensive plan. They did make the recommendation that everything that we're proposing matches what's already in the city's master plan, comprehensive plan. And so that's kind of how we got to our point today. I'm not going to go over all the projects that are in the proposed list. You have those in front of you, and in general they fall under the categories that I already went over this evening. But they do carry on all the work that we're doing, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. If council were to move ahead with the first reading of the ordinance tonight, we would have the second reading on April the 22nd. We would then turn around and do a staff report and a resolution to the Urban Renewal Agency, which would kind of formalize what the council has been approved. And then after that, we would do a public notice that would go out in the Statesman within 4 days of that. And within 30 days, we would then have the increase in place.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and hear from the public then. Jason Cox.
Hi there. First, my name is Jason Cox. I'm chair of the North Gateway Redevelopment Advisory Board. I'm also a resident of Ward 5. And first, I'd like to thank Sarah for her amazing work on this, as well as all the other city staff that have contributed to this complex and important process. So I'm here tonight to ask you to continue the revival of Salem's front porch by extending the maximum indebtedness of the North Gateway urban renewal area, allowing North Salem to build on its success. Since 1990, as you heard, North Gateway URA has made what was once called the gut more beautiful, safe, and livable, while making important investments in local businesses, housing, and well-loved community facilities like the Kroc Center and Center 50+. The city's renewed focus on the North Gateway corridor through the Portland Road Action Plan has increased the speed and pace of economic growth and livability. We've gone a long way, and yet there's still much to do. In recent years, the North Gateway URA has supported projects large and small that collectively have or will provide opportunities to every citizen in Salem. The URA was instrumental in completing community projects like the Kroc Center, enriching lives with a special focus on vulnerable populations. Contributed more than $2 million towards the Career and Technical Center High School, providing educational options to Salem's youth, and which has become a statewide model for modern vocational education. It has supported badly needed affordable housing, providing stable, clean, and well-kept homes that families can be proud to live in. It has helped small business owners achieve their dreams by building or rehabilitating spaces to get started and grow. In the process, creating spaces where locals don't have to leave the neighborhood to grab a beer, work out, go shopping, or have a community meeting. It has helped industry grow by adding additional access points, new production lines, repairing infrastructure, and providing grants so businesses can expand and add jobs. Projects on deck include a community food hub project in the works through Merit, and a Mexican cheesemaker and tasting room that will add more citywide destinations to Salem's front porch. By voting to extend the maximum indebtedness, you'll be helping to ensure more businesses, big and small, have opportunities to make North Salem more livable, create good-paying jobs, and show the private sector Salem is serious about fully revitalizing North Salem. You'll be able to help rehabilitate more blighted properties, making highest and best use of the limited space available in our city, while spurring private investment that otherwise probably would not occur. You'll continue the streetscape and beautification that are already turning heads in a positive way, and improve the safety and overall experience of pedestrians and bicyclists for a population that already has disproportionately low access to vehicles. All of these are great reasons to extend the maximum indebtedness, and as a resident of Northgate, please allow me to thank you for the investments made in our neighborhood to date. If you want to see what making a difference looks like, take a drive down Portland Road these days. But we have work left to do, and I urge you to move this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions? Okay. Nate Levin. Nate, you're...
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Nate Levin. I am a member of, reside at 695 Winding Way, Southeast Salem.
Can you pull that mic up toward you, Nate, so we can hear you? There you go.
Better?
Yes. Thank you.
And I am a board member with Jason on the advisory board. The North Gateway area is certainly an area in transition and has had a challenging past with some commercial activity. The fun part is that today, after all the dollars that have been spent and all the work that's been done, we're seeing the area improve at an accelerating pace, not only with the growth of small business, but with the addition of some additional quality low-income housing and the very definite interest by other commercial brokers as well as developers. So I will absolutely encourage you to continue and ask you to approve the addition to the funding base, because the projects are there, the multiplier effect is substantial. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions for staff? Yes, Councilor Andersen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where'd Sarah go? Okay. Just a couple questions. First of all, do you expect, as Mr. Levin was just talking about, do you expect the same kind of public-private investment increase for every dollar that is spent for the city? I think it was $5 to $23 million last time. Do you expect that same kind of proportional increase in private investment?
Well, we can never predict
Right.
what the future is going to bring. With at least using our grant program as an example, we put $1 million into that program this past July. It lasted us 2 weeks. We then put an additional $1 million into that program in October. It lasted us 2 weeks. We have a waiting list of folks that are very interested in continuing to do development in the North Gateway area. So what I'm seeing is I do think that's going to continue. I do think we're going to get more private investment than public investment that's going to be put in. Yes.
Thank you very much. One more question. I'm a little confused about this 20% issue, because how is 25 million equal to 20% of 75 million, or am I missing that?
So one thing that we're allowed to do one time is we can account for inflation.
Okay.
So we have never accounted for inflation since that maximum indebtedness was established. Now, technically, the maximum indebtedness was not actually established until about 1995, 1996, when the laws changed. Prior to that, we didn't have to have a maximum indebtedness. So what we had to do is determine what the inflation rate was, and then from there, that number, we can use the 20%. But where the inflation comes from is sort of the other piece to the puzzle. Our financial experts are far smarter than I am, but I'm going to do my best to sort of kind of explain it to you. Rather than a standard CPI, we have to base it on how we use it within the city. So what we chose to do is look at our SDCs. That was the most comparable. So we took how Public Works does the SDCs, they gave us their percentages, and then that all got put into the specific formula done by our financial consultants to come up with the dollar amount that we can have. We are right at the 20%, which is why it's not a round number. We found that we could use every dollar in there, and if we were going to go through the process, it made sense to really get that full 20%. But that's why it's not an easy math at all to come up with.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there are not any questions that we could raise that you couldn't answer. Thanks.
You're very kind.
Okay, any further questions? Okay. Councilor Hoy, do you want to move the, who's this? It's Sussex. I'm sorry, Councilor Sussex. I apologize.
Yeah. So I move staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. No, please go ahead.
I was just going to thank everyone who spoke tonight, especially Jason had to speak a little quickly, but he got in a lot of the great work that's already been done and is continuing to be done. And so I really hope we're able to continue to build on the front porch, which I really like that phrase as our entryway into Salem from the north. So
yeah, thank
you everyone for support. I hope everyone will support.
Yeah, I think as mayor and a member of the council throughout this effort, this is one of the proudest projects one of the projects I'm most proud of is the work that has occurred out there and the work we've done. I think it's really remarkable. This is our first opportunity to participate in an education project. When we got involved in CTEC, there was a certain amount of early kind of concern about us getting into education. I think we did it, and I think the result has been outstanding. And the affordable housing projects are often, we went for many years wondering what would happen with the Epping project property, and that has been very successful. I mean, the list just goes on, and then seeing all the additional private investment that's going on out there, I think it's just been a real success. We've had an outstanding advisory committee. Jason is leading it now. It's just been a really good group. The neighborhood group has been very supportive. I think this is one of those models of a really well done, community supported, neighborhood supported urban renewal area. I'm really proud of what's going on out there. So I hope you'll all support the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay. Councilor Kaser is not here, so Councilor Andersen.
Thank you. I move the staff recommendation that the City Council provide support for the Salem Peace Mosaic. I don't know what you want to say. I'll just say saving the Salem Peace Mosaic and finding some place for it to permanently be in the city of Salem.
Second by Hoy.
Thank you. This is not really just my motion. It's Councilor Kaser and Councilor Hoy's, and I know the mayor supplied a letter of support for this. And I think the people who testified today were much more eloquent in the importance of this piece of art than I could be. I just will say that this is true public art, and I think that as such, it should be supported by the council in any way we can.
Okay. Anyone else? I want to compliment Lynn Takata on the tremendous work she's done on this. She's just been tireless in her work on this project from its inception to its occurring, now saving it. Hopefully this is the last time Lynn has to do anything about the Peace Mosaic to make sure it continues on, and also to thank the carousel for including it in its stable addition to their little campus on the Riverfront Park. I think that's just such a perfect location for it. I'm really excited to see this happening, and glad the city again is able to participate and provide both money and impart a location. It's on our building, so we're pretty pleased. Councilor Lewis.
Yeah, I guess a question and then a friendly amendment if I could. I didn't hear the part of the motion about the city's financial support not to exceed $15,000. Wanted to make sure that was still in the original motion.
Yes, it was. I was looking for my agenda item and I couldn't find it, so I guess I moved the staff recommendation, which also would include the $15,000 in the budget.
And I'm going to propose an amended motion. The Peace Mosaic means something, I think, different to everybody. I know it does to me. And the idea that even though the value of moving is $250,000, I'm not surprised at all with the work that's being done for folks to work at lower rates and to get that amount down to $100,000. That is a lot of money to raise in a short amount of time. There is definitely a deadline. So my amendment would increase that $15,000 to $25,000.
I'm just waiting to see if your head explodes.
As long as council doesn't add an extra zero, I think we can accommodate, the budget can accommodate Councilor Lewis's proposed amendment.
I need a second on that.
Okay, I wonder, is it a friendly amendment that I can accept, or do we need a second?
Let's just take it as an amendment and deal with the money separately.
Okay, second.
Okay. Okay, any discussion?
Just a quick one, because Councilor Andersen, it's staff recommendation. This isn't a staff item. It's actually a special order of business by a councilor. So just to make sure that we're, the motion as it was presented.
As presented.
On the agenda.
I am your humble servant with respect to your long-standing council presence, and I would defer to that.
Yeah, we sure want no confusion.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
We all know what we're voting on now. We're going to save the Mosaic, but first we're going to spend $25,000, okay? All those in favor of a $25,000 grant, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Now, Councilor Andersen's motion now includes $25,000 and saving the Mosaic.
Yes.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and I think it's fitting that it would go in at the carousel location. As I came onto council, I was the liaison to the Eco Earth Globe. It's similar, and it needs a little bit of saving right now as well. But again, I got involved and then actually sold the icons on the globe as the fundraising piece, rather than just kind of talking back and forth between their group and the city. So got actively involved in that. Similar, a lot of different organizations in town made a lot of pieces that went on that as well, and we should keep that art.
Yeah. Very good. Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it be possible before, since we're going into budget season, to ask for a report from staff? We've talked about public art, using the term public art as this is a piece that was done by the public. Just how that relates to some of our policies around public art, what's included, what's not, how things come into. I would be interested in finding out more how these things are involved. Would we be able to ask for a staff report?
In the future, yes. Is that okay? I mean, you don't want it before we vote.
Not before we vote.
Okay,
no.
that's, yeah. I think we could have, maybe Courtney could come in and give us a report on what's going on.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Very good. Could you make a note? Thank you. Okay, now, y'all ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Very good. Councilor Andersen, you're up again.
Yes, I am. With respect to item 3.2A, I move the staff recommendation.
Second. Second by Hoy.
I note that both Mr. Chandler and Mr. Martin are here, so I'm not sure to whom to address this question, but I'm all in favor of this. I'd like a little further discussion of how this will help when Cascadia hits and whether or not it has anything to do with the Detroit Lake toxins. I don't think it does, but perhaps staff could respond to that.
Robert Chandler, Assistant Director of Public Works. I'll start and then look for Brian's nonverbal cues, see how close I come. The project is to create a link between our nearly 80-year-old 36-inch water line runs from a treatment plant down from Staten, past Staten down to Franzen Reservoir. A parallel line, 54 inches, not quite 60 years old. And this provides an intertie between those two. It's not directly related to Cascadia, except it does provide some redundancy that we can bring water from one line, bring it down to the other with this cross-connect. Is more closely lined to a future project. A lot of our water lines run underneath Staten. A lot of those run underneath buildings, underneath Staten. And what this allows us to do is to, a follow-on project also in the capital improvement plan, to do what's called cure-in-place piping that allows us to reinforce and reline those pipes to reduce leakage under Staten. It is not directly related to the work on Guerin Island related to ozone treatment, other methods for dealing with the next cyanotoxins.
Okay, thank you very much. I did not assume it was. I just wanted to make sure everybody in the public knew the good job the Public Works is doing in preparing for the future maintenance of these two water lines.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, information reports. Any comments? I do want just one. Blight to Bright. Thank you. Thank you. I live not far from 17th and Kansas, and I can't tell you how good that vacant lot looks today. You've done a marvelous job, Brady. Thank you very, very much. That was an absolute blight on that Englewood neighborhood, so thank you. Really appreciate the work you all are doing. This is exactly the program we've wanted for years, and to see it coming together this well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo your comments. I wanted to ask a question actually on the Blight to Bright program. I see that we've had 2 completed projects, but I think that we might have a third at least in the works out in Ward 6. Is that true? And if so, where are we?
Good evening, City Councilors, Mr. Mayor. My name's Brady Rogers. I am your Neighborhood Enhancement Division Administrator. Yes, we have completed 2 projects. We're thinking about a third. We've not made a decision just yet. It's always it's the final straw. It's if we can't resolve one of these problems any other way, it's the last resort that we take. So, and it's one of the hardest things to do, because we're actually taking somebody's home or somebody's business or their building and just taking it from them. So it is the last set of circumstances, and I don't think we're there again for another one. Although I have heard that some properties on the list may be transacting, and we should have that Blight to Bright initial seed money be able to transfer it all back perhaps as soon as July. So.
Brady, lest anyone be confused, you're not tearing down somebody's home. I mean, I'm looking at the one in my neighborhood. That had been abandoned for some time. It had not paid taxes for some time. It had not paid its penalties you'd applied to it. It had become vacated. It had become boarded up. It was falling down. It was covered with garbage, and there were squatters living in it. Yeah. I want you to be real careful when you say we're knocking down somebody's home.
That's all very true. There was a woman who lived in there not too,
many years before.
Many years ago.
But years ago.
Yeah, years ago. And, she owned it, and she still owned it when we knocked it down. So.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, it was quite a nuisance.
What about the apartments over on 4th or 5th? What is it, Kinsey's?
Yes, that's an interesting property. Probably
20 years later, I'm asking this question.
Yeah. Actually, I should probably speak to you about that offline. Okay. There's light at the end of the tunnel there. I'll say that.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Any others? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We do have some more questions.
Oh, someone had a question? Lewis. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Lewis.
Yeah, this is on 6.E, the Mid-Valley Homeless Initiative update. And Kristen, I don't want you to go through the report because you want to get out by dark, but if we could get a synopsis of what the report says, and I don't know, there's not an answer in here yet, but my ultimate question is, I want to know when I can go to someone that's laying on the sidewalk in downtown Salem, and when they say I have no place to go, I'm going to be able to say, yes, you do, and I'll take you there.
Well, that's a difficult question. So the answer is that's not going to be anytime really soon. We're still very involved in supporting housing at a wide variety of levels. We do have projects that are coming online relatively soon to be a place that people can go during daytime hours. The Arches project, that will be the day room space with showers and lockers and restroom facilities, is under construction right now. That will be open and available a little bit later this summer. We're also working very closely with the mission in support of the new men's mission, but we're still looking at a couple of years out before we have that additional overnight capacity available for men. The report that is in your packet addresses a number of key initiatives through the Mid-Willamette Homeless Initiative over the last year and over the time period that we've had a homeless coordinator on board. The work effort covered the work plan coming out of the strategic plan for that initiative for this first year really focused on some key deliverables that included a service inventory and a money map that will really help us, again, not overnight, not immediately, but better channel resources and services so that there's improved coordination and so that we're making our investments within the community and the region more strategically to expand those resources. The other deliverable, and we will be having a work session on this later this month, is an analysis of the continuum of care and whether or not the region should continue to participate in the balance of state with 28 other counties, or whether or not we should withdraw and have a local regional continuum of care. All of these things in incremental steps are what's needed to get to the ability to answer that question. And it's, you know, this is a situation that has developed over 30 some years, and it's not something that we'll be able to answer really quickly. You know, as much as everybody that is involved in coming up with a solution would like to be able to answer that question tomorrow, you know, it definitely is going to take some time, but I think that as a region, we are becoming much more strategic and organized in how we answer that. The city has become more strategic in how we answer that through the HRAP program. You know, we can't answer that for everybody, but there are, you know, well over 150 people who have received that answer over the last year and a half. So, you know, we're making strides, but the solution is going to be one that takes time.
Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kind of following up on that, are there any new overnight shelters on the horizon? Are there any nonprofits out there looking at opening a new shelter? Really seems like that there's a gap there.
There is a gap in shelter capacity. There have been a number of discussions in the community, but nothing that is, you know, going through planning review right now that's looking to open within the next 6 months or so.
Thank you.
Okay. And there's still a place to stay at the shelter tonight. If someone does ask you, Councilor Lewis, aim them toward the shelter. They always have empty beds. And they have people who don't want to go in. Yeah. So, see how that goes. Okay. First readings.
Ordinance Bill number 219, an ordinance relating to parking, amending Salem Revised Code, Chapter 102.
Councilor Hoy.
Yeah. Thank you. I move staff recommendation.
Second by Nanke. Okay, who wants to talk? Councilor Hoy, you made the motion.
Just
barely.
barely.
Go first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the opportunity. I mainly have a question, and I just wanted to clarify that what we're proposing here is looking to change the rules for residents of downtown and nobody else. Is that correct?
The permit piece, yes, is tied to residents in the downtown area. So right now we have downtown residents that are able to park overnight in the parking structures. They're not required to have a permit. Employees who work downtown are required to have a permit for their daytime parking. Residents also can park on the street if they're in compliance with the time limits. So with the amount of new housing that we have coming on board over the next year and a half, and we see increased demand on the parking structures to help us better manage that system and to know who is parking in the garages, we wanted to get ahead of that development and get this permit process in place.
Thank you.
Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And when I read that quarter mile, people who live within a quarter mile of downtown, do we know how many standard residential dwelling units? It's like, I want to go shopping, I'm going to be driving over there, I can't come back and park in the garage if I live within a quarter of a mile of that downtown boundary, correct?
Correct, and I'm going to turn to my staff to see if they have a take on the number of people that that would impact. We are conferring in the background.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. Devin Sherrill, City of Salem Parking Services Operations Supervisor. I don't have an exact number on that. The quarter mile, in theory, really goes right up to where our RP zones start. So there's RP 5, 10, and 2, or 1. But as far as the number of exact dwellings or households, it's limited, and those permit holders already hold a permit. I don't know if that answers your question. It's
Okay, yeah. So everybody who lives in that quarter mile already has a permit that would allow them to
if they're in a
actually be
residential zone, anything that's on, because it's, the tricky thing is most of it's all state buildings, businesses, and then you have these little pockets who are in that quarter mile have an RP zone already established by Public Works.
Okay. So yeah, the people who actually live in downtown, I can see that as a secondary parking piece. There was a lot of communications in and around a couple of different Facebook groups that I'm in, who were worried that everybody wouldn't be able to just come and park downtown, similar to what they've done in the past. And I reiterated that it had to do with those people who live in downtown. And the restrictions would be targeted at them, similar to employees, again, who work downtown, did not take up on-street parking and actually use that as part of their home or business.
Correct, but with this, so any of those people on the periphery, yes, they could park within the downtown. I mean, this really is just permitting, and it's mostly applying to those that are overnight. If you're a downtown resident or a resident on the periphery, you can still park on the street within the time restrictions.
Amanda?
That's a point I was going to ask about. As a full disclosure, I'm a downtown employee, so I pay to park, but I also come here all the time on my own fun time, and I always want to use the permit. And one of the understandings I had was you take the permit off, you can park wherever when you're doing something other than what you pay for the permit for. So if you live downtown, you want to drive over somewhere one day, as long as you're not trying to park with the permit in the wrong parkade, you could probably still do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to clarify that RP1. So do I understand you saying that people who have a residential permit can park overnight in the parking garage without penalty?
No.
Okay, I want to make sure that's clear. I wasn't sure.
No, but I think it's an officer's discretion how we enforce. So if, let's say, for example, there's a resident with RP1, they come in downtown, they happen to park in the free customer parking area, then it's the officer's discretion. They're already paying us through their permit for the RP zone. We're not looking for that. They're the exception.
Should that have been written into this then, rather than leaving it to the officer's discretion? I just worry sometimes, and I'm not saying they wouldn't be discreet, but it makes me a little nervous that it could be different. People could be treated differently depending on the officer who cites them.
Good evening, Sri Wargren, Downtown Revitalization Manager. The individuals that are in an RP zone have an indicator in their vehicles. So it isn't, I wouldn't have necessarily used the word discretion for clarification. So if somebody is in an RP zone, their vehicles, we can tell, officers can tell their vehicles. So if they come downtown and they park in a free customer parking space in a parking garage, we'll be able to tell who they are, versus the resident permit, and they're required to park in a permit area within a parking garage. And residents are not prohibited from parking on the street like employees are. So if any resident parks on the street, they're not prohibited. They just have to park there within the 3-hour time limit.
I'm afraid I'm still not understanding what you're doing here. You have created a quarter mile from downtown, which is fairly substantial. You're 3-4 blocks off of the downtown zone, parking zone. and that moves into some residential neighborhoods. And what do I pay for that RP sticker? I'm just not quite getting why you're using the RP zone so interchangeably with a parking permit for a downtown resident.
It isn't a replacement for a resident permit. I think the question was, how would we know how many residents are in the peripheral? And the response was the majority.
So this is an enforcement issue. This is just a count?
I'm sorry, could you
Is it
explain?
just your counting, or is this an enforcement issue? I'm not getting what you're doing here.
No, I think it was the customer service piece, that if you're already in a residential area out within that 1/4 mile, you're already paying an annual fee of $15 for that particular permit. You have a sticker on your bumper, or there's something in your window. And if you came downtown and you parked in a parking garage, not on street, but if you parked in a parking garage where this new permit is required for long-term parking in a parking garage, a resident that parks long-term in a parking garage needs to have that resident permit. Somebody that comes down to dine and shop that's in the peripheral residential area, that they already are paying for a permit.
So, Sheree, maybe I can take a stab at this. I
want to understand this 1/4 mile. This sounds like a mistake to me.
So
that maybe this isn't ready for prime time yet.
So I'll take a stab at explaining this. So this permit process is for those residents that are within the downtown. Now, there's some overlap with the downtown and residential areas where people already have the RP designation. Okay, this permit does not apply to those people that live sort of around the fringes of the downtown area where they're already paying for residential parking and have that designation. Okay, so if you are a person that lives on the fringe and you have that RP designation that you're already paying for, there is no difference for you. It's parking and business as usual. If you come downtown. And this is the question that we were responding to. What happens to those people that live on the fringes of downtown? Are they subjected to this permit? They're not. Okay, they are already paying for their residentially zoned parking, so they're not subjected to a second permit. They already have an indicator that they're paying for, and that moves with them into the downtown parking garages if they were to come downtown. So this really doesn't apply to them. This applies to those individuals that have a residence within the downtown that are not living in one of these, in a residentially zoned parking area.
Okay.
So on the fringe.
I'm not done, but Councilor Andersen may help me complete it.
So I thought I understood this, and now I'm not sure I do, but if someone lives within 1/4 mile, they pay $15 for a residential parking permit. So could that person come down to a city-owned parking garage and leave their car there overnight without any problem?
So the answer that I'd have is that yes, they could. So let's say that you've gone out for dinner, you've had a couple of drinks, you want to leave your car in the parking garage. That's not what this is targeting.
Or let's say you've got people visiting you when you're 1/4 mile downtown, and you say, hey, I've got a residential parking permit, I don't have any room in my driveway and there's no room on the streets, I'll just go down and park my car there tonight and walk back home. That would be acceptable too.
Again, that's not the target of this permit.
Okay, well, so the answer is yes, that would be acceptable. Now, is there a difference, like in my ward, and I'm sure in every councilor's ward, there are some places where you have residents can park all the time. Other people who park there, non-residents of that particular area, have a 90-minute, do people say who live on Gaiety Hill? We had an issue about the parking on Church Street there a while back. Do those people pay something for their residential parking permits? Or they just get them because they prove their residence there? I'm looking at Brady now, maybe, I don't know.
So if you are in an RP zone to get the RP designation, is there a fee associated with
Yes.
that? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there is.
Okay,
So you have to go into the permit center.
Somebody who lives on
yes.
Leslie Street would have to go in, pay $15 and get the permit.
Yes,
So they're treated no differently than the people who live within the quarter mile.
correct.
And so theoretically, could somebody who lives by South Salem High School, where we have the same, they could take their car to the downtown parking garage and park overnight without any problems? I see your Director of Parking Regulations is nodding his head yes. Okay, thanks.
Councilor Cook.
Thank you. So, Christine, you mentioned doing these changes ahead of future developments downtown. How many units are we anticipating? I know the hotel, getting that in. What kind of change are we going to see as far as overnight parking and increase in residential parking in the downtown core?
We have, so not everything that I'm going to refer to has land use approval at this time, but it's had a pre-application. So we have about 300 new units between pre-application and what is under construction right now that could potentially be providing housing within the downtown over the next 2 to 3 years.
Great, and this is kind of a follow-up, and this might be more for your parking services. Is the nature of the complaints that you normally get surrounding parking that people are unclear as to what is allowed for parking as far as the 3-hour limit or the blocks or how to pay, since it's not, we have the smart meters on some blocks, we have different things here. And I recognize that's a convenient excuse, I didn't know, but especially given the nature of the interpretation of things here, what can we expect as far as an education campaign for the people using the parking structures and the people coming into the community as residents?
So in a situation like this where we're establishing a new permit and with a lot of our enforcement, especially when we're in a transition, we provide warnings before we provide citations. We always opt for that customer service educational approach before issuing a citation. We do currently outreach to existing downtown residences and employers to make sure that employers and employees are aware of existing requirements for permits. So we do take that sort of educating outreach approach prior to moving forward with any sort of enforcement or citation. So as new apartments come online, if this were in place, we would continue that sort of education with new apartments, as they're being developed, so that the leasing agents and the property management are aware of the program.
And I know we had this conversation kind of offline last time about the use of space with parking and increasing alternative options for people, so that if you know you're going to come down and want to have the option of leaving your car, maybe having the option of not having to do that, we discussed some of them with the Congestion Relief Task Force, and you'd mentioned the market draw. How will these 300 units help to move those projects along to give people options besides driving into the core?
So what you often see in situations where you have increased density and an increased market for those services is that companies then become interested in providing a service to meet that increased demand. So that's something that I wouldn't expect to see until after all of these units are built and they're fully leased up, and companies like Zipcar see the demand. But one thing that we are starting to see, not just here but in other places, is with the advent of Lyft and Uber, that people are tending to use that more than Lyft, or more than the Zipcar.
I know the conversation around just the use of public space, whether it's right of way for the curb with, ride share or bike lanes, these kind of things. So I think it's really important talking about the market demand and how it's not necessarily saying that we're picking one over the other, but it really sounds like this is meeting the current and also facilitating the next step, but there's still farther to go.
Okay. In terms of there being a variety of alternative modes within the city, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Nanki.
Yeah, just one final one on the quarter mile. and I think that's where the root of the confusion is coming from. So why did we put an extra quarter mile on the downtown parking district? And if it doesn't apply to the residents who live in RP zones, who is it targeting in that 1/4 mile?
It's targeting any infill redevelopment or
So
second
future
story
construction that may
conversions.
be in
Yeah.
that wouldn't necessarily
Right.
be in a location where they could get an RP permit.
Correct. And so we're looking at distances that would be walkable to the garages where people, may be parking. I mean, once you get beyond a 1/4 of a mile, that, for a lot of people, that gets starts to get out of their walking zone.
Okay.
I'm going to make a substitute motion. I'd like to have this sent back to staff and just get this 1/4 mile clarified. I think there are a couple of other tweaks that need to be made in there. I don't think this really is ready yet for us to take to second reading. You've heard a number of our questions. I think it's just getting this really clarified. I think the fundamental question, and I'm not satisfied what this 1/4 mile is about, this discretionary use of our R1s, R2 zones. The whole thing continues to not have enough clarity, I think, to go to prime time. So I'd move that we send this back.
I'll second that if you need.
Yeah, okay. I know what you need. You'll go nodding yes? Okay. Is there any discussion? Since I discussed it already, I won't say anymore.
May I ask for staff clarification as we're taking this back? So
fix it.
To further address the enforcement piece tied to the 1/4 mile and the residential permit zones, is that the primary
You may
concern?
get other questions from us in writing or in conversation, but those are the ones I think that are quickly identified. Yes.
I think following up on that, and I share the confusion of everybody else, I'm interested in how the 1/4 mile RP permit is different from somebody who has an RP permit who lives 4 miles away.
Right.
And if there is any difference.
Okay, all those in favor of substitute motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Okay, we have another first reading.
Ordinance Bill number 419, an ordinance relating to urban renewal, making a substantial amendment to the City of Salem's North Gateway Urban Renewal Plan and directing that notice of approval be published.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'll move the
Okay.
again.
Second by Andersen. Do you want to discuss it?
Well, I think we discussed it a little bit earlier, and just thank everyone for coming out. I see several people from the neighborhood associations here tonight, and so I hope everyone supports our front porch. That's the one.
I just have visions of your feet kicked up out there on Portland Road.
My Diet Pepsi.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Okay, I have a couple of people that wanted to speak under unrelated issues. Frank? Boy, I'm not sure. I can't. Oh, Frank, you want to say something? Yaria?
Can I take Frank's?
You can. Let me let you come last, okay? Okay. Junia Wigton? Thanks for waiting, Junia. We appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Junia, and I'm 10 years old. This is a part of an essay that I wrote for my writing class, and I would like to share with you. Because in the next month, you will have a chance to pass an amendment to allow backyard ducks within the Salem city limits. I would like to own ducks for several reasons. Duck eggs are better for baking than chicken eggs. Some people are allergic to chicken eggs but can tolerate duck eggs. I want the Indian runner duck because they can't fly and they're a quieter breed. I've always desired a duck. I like ducks better than chickens because they're cleaner and they love a human just as much as a dog can. They are way more cuddly than chickens too. Having a duck has always been a hope of mine. ducks are so captivating. I hope you'll consider making backyard ducks legal within the Salem city limits. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Go Ducks.
Yeah, go Ducks. Eh? Thank you very much. Very good job. Jim Ross.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett and City Council members. I'm Jim Ross, and I live at 295 Church, and I'm staying out of the parking issue debate. I am here because I'm with the Salem Bicycle Club, and we are here to ask you to join us in celebrating our 50th year in existence.
Yay.
We were founded to promote bicycling, safe bicycling. We want you to realize that bicycling is one of the few win-win-win situations on our planet. It improves our health, it is an asset to better air quality, and it makes for more economical transportation. With these things in mind, we invite you and the City of Salem to participate in the Monster Cookie. The Monster Cookie Metric Century Bicycle Ride is the Salem Bicycle Club's premier spring event and Oregon's first activity to start the cycling season. This will be the 43rd year of the Monster Cookie. The ride starts at the State Capitol Mall Park in Salem and takes riders over scenic back roads to a historic Shampooey Park and then back to Salem, passing the Willamette Mission State Park. The route includes parts of the Willamette Valley Bikeway and the proposed Bike Boulevard neighborhoods. There is an optional short route to the first rest stop. That's only 34 miles. As always, there will be tons of locally baked cookies and other food items. You will have views of the Willamette Valley farmlands, vineyards, and Mount Hood in the distance. Your reward at the end is a monster cookie. This is a recreational ride and is open to all bicyclists who agree to share the road with others by riding safely, lawfully, and courteously. Each participant must wear a helmet that meets the CPSC requirements. Registration opens at 8 a.m. There is no mass start. Once you have picked up your packet, you can start your ride. To pre-register for the ride at $30, go to the web at salembicycleclub.org. Mail-in registration forms are available at your Salem Kaser bicycle shops. There will be day of registration available at $40. In conclusion, often Salem cannot tell which way the City Council will go, but we hope you and the people of Salem will join us in celebrating our 50th year and ride the Monster Cookie. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Councilor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ross. I can tell you which way I'm going to go. I'll be there and participate in the ride.
Good, thank you. Yes.
Councilor Cook.
Thank you. I am super nervous and excited that I signed up to do this. It's always been a goal, so I'll be the caboose, bringing up the
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
Councilor Hoy, you too?
I'm actually running the day of ride registration booth for the, I don't know, 6th or 7th year in a row. So I will see everybody at the start line.
Great. Do you get a cookie for that?
I get more than one.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, actually, thank you very much, Mr. Ross. That's great. Yes, you're up.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Marlene Madison, and I'm with Northgate Neighborhood Association, and I'm thrilled for the redevelopment and the loans that go through. But this is what I'm bringing up. In the development, they put in the home and school, but they didn't allow for traffic, how it would be bottlenecked down there. And I know they're working on it, but hopefully it goes fast. Because we live on Felina, and you cannot get out of your driveway.
Right.
And a lot of people are complaining about it in the area, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention. It's like at a crisis level.
You bet.
Yeah.
Do you want to, is that on your, is there anything related to this on your project list, Kristen?
Again, Robert Chandler, Assistant Public
Robert,
Works
sorry.
Director, and I don't know what we've got on the project list or how it's set up with this. I can check, find
Okay.
out.
Well, maybe
Okay,
we
thank
can
you.
check that out. Great.
Wonderful.
Councilor Cook, is it on yours?
Well, I was just going to say, Ms. Madison, I'm familiar with the bond that just passed with the
Right.
school district. And I believe with Hallman, they're slated to have a separate lot off of Portland Road. So one of the things we've looked at is, especially working with Hallman folks, how many people live in the area with contiguous sidewalks, and if it's necessary for maybe providing some encouragement and availability to help remove the barriers for walking.
Yes.
So that if you're living close by, I know there's a lot of high-density housing around there as well, which circles back to our parking issue, where if you have, 2 spaces for an apartment complex, people sometimes are parking where they're able to if they have more than 2 cars, depending on the people that are living there. But I know that's something that the school, that the parents have talked about. And as far as traffic moving faster, please no. That's what the parents are worried about with speeding traffic and people not stopping for crosswalks or stopping for kids. Because it's that
Yes, we
self-defeating
have that.
cycle. I wouldn't want to, if you're not going to stop for my child, if the traffic is going too fast, we don't want to walk.
No.
So being
There-
mindful of that.
And the apartments up there where they're parking on the streets, on the side of the streets, you can't even see when you're driving up the road. It's dangerous.
So you can see there's lots of issues.
Kids could run in between the cars, so it is a very dangerous situation. on
But
that
just
street.
keep in mind, the school district passed that bond, and
Okay.
that's separate. But I know Public Works, in working with the parent group, has been very helpful. Same with Salem PD, where if someone's seen violations, to get them reported.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Lois, you? Is it recreation? What is this? Okay, I don't see any further business. We're adjourned.
1 hour, 49 minutes.